Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to our Mentorship Initiative event series, How Mentorship Can Enhance Your Entrepreneurial Journey. We're really excited to have you all here with us today. We have a great discussion awaiting you. It's so great to have you all here with us today. To give you a sense of what to expect during this hour together, we're starting off with a short overview of the YouthLead Mentorship Initiative. Then I'll turn it over to our panel moderator to facilitate a discussion about their personal journeys as entrepreneurs and mentors. We'll have around 10 minutes for Q&A from the audience, so please do post your questions in the chat when you have them, and I'll come back to help close us out. With that, let's dive right in. Under the mentorship resources component, we also house our learning events series, which are live events we host quarterly, such as this one. This learning series was developed through the feedback we received from YouthLead members during the mentorship initiative launch. Our learning events focus on learning from established mentors, tools and frameworks, furthering the development of mentorship knowledge and practices, and applying practical mentoring advice or information. You can learn more about the YouthLead Mentorship Initiative and this event series online by visiting us online through the link my colleague Ben will be sharing in the chat. You can also watch our previous learning event recordings. And we've covered topics such as finding, assessing, and approaching mentors, mentorship across cultures, listening and mentoring relationships, and setting boundaries and managing expectations. YouthLead's mentorship initiative focuses on connecting youth to content, learning resources, and mentorship networks. While we do not offer direct mentor matching, the goal of our approach is to enhance leadership skills and support professional development within the sphere of mentorship. This initiative is grounded in and guided by the principles of positive youth development and PYD, that PYD highlights the critical role of mentorship by promoting healthy relationships for young people and more broadly contributing to an enabling environment for youth. As you can see on the screen, the YouthLead Mentorship Initiative is divided into three main areas: collecting and sharing resources on mentorship, connecting YouthLead members with one another, and offering a space to learn more about our partners. Next slide, please, Ben. And with that, we'll get started with our panel today, our panel discussion. If each of our panelists could give a short introduction, and then we'll get started with our discussion.
Thank you, Fisa. If you don't mind, I'm going to start since that's the order that it's on the screen. So my name is Ignacio Lopez. Really good to be here. Thank you very much, Fisa, Ben, and everyone else for the invite. Just a quick overview. I studied international relations in Guatemala, and I've worked with several educational institutions, being tutoring for vulnerable groups throughout the country, being mentoring them, and so on. I have also participated with the Mesoamerican Business Council back in 2020. So I've worked with several organized private sectors throughout the Latin America region. I've also been working with GAN Global, which is the Global Apprenticeship Network. And today I'm the project director for the Coordinating Committee of Agricultural, Commercial, Industrial, and Financial Organizations in Guatemala, which is basically the organized private sector in the country, where I oversee several projects of entrepreneurship, education, and so much more. So again, thank you very much for having us, Fisa.
Hi everyone, my name is Luis Pedro. I am also from Guatemala. I'm an entrepreneur myself. I've been in the entrepreneurial world for around 10 plus years. I have 3 businesses. I also work as a product owner in a technology company. And last but not least, I'm the vice president of a Cámara Industria, that it's the Chamber of Industry in Guatemala, and also the vice president of the organization that Ignacio already mentioned. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here, share my knowledge, share my journey through the entrepreneurial and mentor journey that I had in the past, and hopefully my experience will be relatable more than insightful, because I think I have some really good experiences to share. And thank you everyone for being here. Hopefully you enjoy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maria Nichols. I'm also from Guatemala, and my major is also in international relations. So I've been a realtor since 2010. Began my career as a franchisee of an American brand. Nowadays, I run my brokerage here, so it's like the entrepreneurial part of the history. And also, the president of the Women in Business Chamber nowadays, and also share the board with Luis Pedro and Ignacio in Casicon. So it's a pleasure for me to be here and sharing some of my experience.
Fantastic. Thank you all so much for being here. So we'll start our panel discussion. My first question, just for the group, is what role does a mentor play in an entrepreneur's journey?
I guess I'll start. I think a mentor in the entrepreneurial journey, it's really important. More than important, it's really helpful. I believe that the mentor can help you guide through the way, through the road. I always have this saying that it's entrepreneurs take the less traveled road because it's harder, it takes more challenges, and a mentor can help you guide through that way, because when you're traveling on a less traveled road, you might encounter that there's no signs, there's not a really covered pathway where you can follow. So I think the mentor, it's more than a guidance, also a companion along the way, where you not only share knowledge and wisdom to take better decisions, but also values. I think it's really important that the mentor reminds you of the values that you have, so you don't lose focus when you're on your journey, because sometimes being accompanied by someone else, it helps you to take better decisions, take more risks. In my experience, at least, having a mentor helped me in uncertainty. That's a thing that we as entrepreneurs face a lot, because they can tell you from their experience how they manage to find the way to overcome those obstacles that you encounter all the time. So I think it plays a really important role, not only by guiding you with network and all these options that are presented by other figures, but also in your values and the way that you travel the less traveled road. I don't know if one of my colleagues want to add something else.
I would say also empathy, because as Luis Pedro was saying, once you have that companion, you need to know that someone else, you are not the first one, right, to walk that path. But also, I will add, how can I say, like, for example, the empathy, and also, I forgot the right word to say it, but the account, it's like the accountant, right? Like the person who will be pushing you, but also making sure that you are following the plan that you set in the beginning for that business to run precisely as you were planning to.
Yeah, and just to do like a quick wrap up, I totally agree with what Luis Pedro and Maria Jose were saying. I think Maria Jose, the word you were looking for is accountability.
Yeah.
And yeah, and totally agree. And regarding what Luis Pedro said, and you also mentioned it right now, Maria Jose, is basically like, for me, like having a mentor or being a mentor for someone else. It's, for me, like the thing that helps the most is they have perhaps a more long-term vision, whereas myself or the entrepreneur might have a more short-term vision. And Luis Pedro already mentioned it, because like they might already have passed through that entrepreneurial way. And of course, I have to mention that even though they might be like a more experienced entrepreneur, and they might have several entrepreneurships and so on, I'm pretty sure, like I'm 100% sure that the path they took once is going to be extremely different from what one is going to take. But they do have that more of a long-term vision on what needs to be done and so on. And also everyone that has taken the entrepreneurship way knows that it really is a lonely road. It's a really difficult one. So having a mentor also helps a lot with emotional support. Like entrepreneurship really can be a roller coaster, and having someone by your side and also being held accountable, as Maria Jose already mentioned, can be really, really, really helpful for, well, what a mentor can significantly impact the success and growth of our own entrepreneurship, I would say.
Yeah, and at some point from my experience, I would say also that they become your credential or your business card presentation, right? Because when you have no reviews and no great experiences to share with at the very first beginning, they will do that for you at some point.
And I would lastly, also to add that nowadays, I think it's important to talk about it because we've been in this culture of grinding and only grinding and only grinding and not taking a time for ourselves to think about what actually we are doing, how it creates value. And I think the mentor plays a really important role in something else that's more not related to professional aspect, but also emotional support. I think the emotional support that the mentor plays, it's really crucial, because when you're feeling down, when you're feeling those challenges that you're facing, that emotional support might give you the strength to get back up when you find the adversity on the road. So I just want to add that piece of, at least for myself and my mentees that I have held in the past, just having that emotional support, you can boost that confidence that will make them not only take the road, like the less traveled road in a better sense of direction, but also as well feel more confident that the decision they're taking, even though it involves risks, it's the more assertive one.
Fantastic. Thank you all so much. What a great first start to our panel discussion. You all mentioned several qualities of some great mentors: empathy, accountability, but it can be tricky to find people with these qualities, right? So what are some best practices for finding mentors suitable for your venture?
I'll go. I think the best practices is leverage your network. That's a basic one. I mean, you got to start by leveraging your network, and maybe in your network you don't have a mentor per se, but you can ask of people that you admire, people that you know that they have traveled this road before, people that you have seen. I don't know, maybe here in the speaker event. I think you can even reach out, and that's for me the next step. It's cold outreach. At least for me, when it takes strength and I don't know if this is the right word, but guts to be cold outreach to someone that you admire. Sometimes you might encounter, I think maybe we all have encountered with ghosting. It's also a really bad practice in business. But for me, having someone come to me in a cold outreach shows a lot of the accountability and the desire that these people have to become better. So I strongly believe is leverage your network, go to network events and do cold outreach, and find someone in your community. I think that's the 3 steps that I will say that we can begin discussing here.
Yeah, if I might add something to that, or just Luis Pedro said something about networking events. I think you must leave out of your comfort zone and just attend them. Like, there's so many organizations nowadays, regionally, globally, and so on, that work on entrepreneurship. So even if you don't have, for example, an already made entrepreneurship, so you can't maybe join an incubator or accelerator or something like that, there are several organizations that host networking events, and I think that's one of the ways where you can find someone to be your mentee. And Lisbeth already mentioned, just get out of there, just go ask them, as Lisbeth already mentioned, if someone just goes up to you and just ask them to be a mentee, to be a mentor, or so on, that already shows like the first steps of compromise, that someone is accountable, that someone wants to thrive in this entrepreneurship road. So that would be the first thing. But Fisa, you mentioned in the question something also about how can we find not only a mentor but the right mentor, right? And I think for that, one has, as a mentee, one has to define our goals. Like, what do we expect from a mentor? Like, we can't expect for them to like do everything, for example, or something like that. We do have to define our goals and what do we expect we are gonna get by having a mentor. And also, I would suggest to seek, maybe not in the beginning, but if we are a little bit more on the way of our entrepreneurship, seek industry specific experience, because as I already mentioned, like the experiences one entrepreneur might have from other one might be really different. So finding a specific experience you're looking for example, I don't know, if you're in the food and beverage industries, you might want to have a mentor that already has that experience in that specific industry. So I would think that would be the first step. But again, I would just encourage all of you to be able to just attend networking events, just talk with people, get out of your comfort zone, and that way you're gonna get the right mentor, as I mentioned.
Yeah, I will just quickly add that it will depend on the stage you are like looking for the mentor, because will not be for sure the same for a life mentor since you're a student, or a business mentor, right? Because of what Ignacio was saying. So from my experiences involving in the ecosystem of your industry, and also have an active participation in the chambers and all these kind of organizations that will help you to leverage your network, as this person said.
And lastly, I also will add that there's the mentorship. It's a two-way street. It's not only a mentee mentor. Communication. It's a two-way street, and I think you also, as a mentee, and that's a really good advice. I will say it's be open to feedback. I mean, sometimes we tend to try to find someone that will guide us and will not give positive reinforcement, positive constructive feedback. So be open to feedback, be curious about it, ask questions, tell me what I'm doing wrong, because I think we learn more from our mistakes than from our accomplishments. So be really open to the feedback, and also really important as well, it's stay committed. Because I mean, it's like a relationship. I mean, you don't go the first time when you're in a date, you're gonna expect to marry that person. So it's the same way as a mentor. You gotta build the trust, build the relationship, and it takes time. It's not easy. Sometimes the chemistry is not there. So we gotta go elsewhere to find that chemistry that we're looking for. Because as I mentioned in the previous question, it also plays an important part of the emotional support, and someone is just your boss. It becomes your boss if you don't have that component in the relationship. So I think it's really important to be open to feedback and stay committed to the relationship and be accountable. I mean, if you set your goals and your objectives clear, and be accountable on those goals and those objectives, so that also the mentor sees with the mentee that there's a sense of commitment to the relationship, not only to be as a boss supporting the relationship.
Thank you so much, Luis. And you actually led me into my next question perfectly, which is, as a mentor, how can you make sure that you and your mentee and vice versa are on the same page? It is a tricky relationship. As you mentioned, it is, there can be different dynamics. So how can you make sure that you are both on the same page?
I'll just answer that very briefly, and I already mentioned that in my previous answer. But as a mentee, you have to have your goals really defined, like what do you expect from that relationship. And I already mentioned that, but as Luis Pedro said in his previously answered question, we have to establish like a mutual fit. Like, it's not only about, and I already mentioned this, Lisa, you already mentioned this too. It's not only about finding a mentor, you have to find the right mentor. And for that, you really have to have an open communication, just like let them know how you're feeling. But also this recommendation also goes to the mentors. Like it's a two-way street, as Lisbeth already mentioned. Like we have to have an open communication. We have to have defined our goals, like the mentee, what do they expect from that relationship, but also the mentor, what do they expect from that relationship, and how at the end of the day, we also have a win-win situation where it's not only the mentor that's like providing their experience, but at the end of the day, the mentor also can learn from the mentee. So I would say just like try to build a win-win situation, as I mentioned, but that is going to be achievable by having a really good and open communication and just building that trust bit by bit. And as Lisbeth already mentioned, like it's not about just having a mentor, is more about having the right mentor. So I would say that, yeah.
For me, I think also it's important as a mentor to be empathetic. I think it's a crucial element on the relationship as a mentor. Because if you're empathetic, you understand that you already went through that or went through something similar, and with that empathy, you can build a stronger sense of trust between you and your mentee. And being that said, to build that trust, I think the mentee and the mentor also, it's a responsibility for the mentor as well to set clear objectives, because we'll all have friends that we can talk about many things, but with a mentor-mentee relationship, it's important you set objectives and clear where you want to go. Because if you don't have that sense of direction, you might find your, waste of time just going back and forth on the same thing. So having the clear objectives, it's really important. And as a mentor as well, it's staying updated. Also follow their track, follow their progress, see how they're doing, see what are they doing, and celebrate success. I think that's also a really important thing as well as a mentor. Celebrate their success, because by celebrating their success, it's not only a feedback communication and back and forth and saying you did this wrong, but also when they're doing something right, you gotta celebrate it, because that encourages the person to set more objectives, be more clear about where they're going. And last but not least is do regular check-ins. I think that's really important as well. Be in constant communication. Communication, it's a key on this relationship. And while doing regular check-ins, you'll know that you're on the same page, and that will help build this chemistry between the two-way communication and two-way street relationship.
And my advice will be basically to set values also, because we were talking about or discussing about goals, but I think values will keep you on the same page also. And my advice for the mentees will be to keep in mind that the hard work will come from you, because it's not the mentor who will set, as I said before, the plan, the business plan and everything else. So asking powerful questions and setting the ground will come from the mentee, and the mentor will guide you and facilitate, as we'll be saying. So keep in mind values, and also do your hard work and everything else as mentee.
Yes, I totally agree. I would just add, which it was previously mentioned, but I would add also active listening. Again, it's a two-way street. So the mentor must be able to listen and also have some feedback from the mentee, but also that's a two-way street, and that's the way to build trust. Like the mentee also has to listen and be open to like positive reinforcement, but also to some critics on how to get better. And of course, the mentor is not always going to be right. But again, you do have to do some active listening, and sometimes he'll be right, sometimes he won't. But it's more about how you guys can do it together, and not only, as Maria Jose already mentioned, like not only do what the mentor says, or not only do what I want to do and not agree with the mentor, but just build that mutual trust and be able to do it together, I would say. Yeah.
Fantastic. So kind of related to the qualities of a good mentor, how important is it? And I believe the panel also mentioned this briefly in one of the previous questions. How important is it to have industry specific knowledge to act as a mentor?
Very important. Very important, I will say. Like from my experience, I had the chance to have two mentors, one as a business and one realtor who she had gone through all the stages I had to, so that in a, like for example, in my industry and in my country, it's not so professional, let's say, or not, yeah, not so professional market. So for me, uncertainty was like, you know, that big issue, because there were no setting rules or not clear ways to do things. So for me, it was like that big difference to have technical mentors who helped me gone through all those steps in order to set the company and everything.
I think also being industry specific. I mean, I believe it's a good thing. I think it's the better aspect of doing industry specific. It's the network and the connections. I mean, pretty much if you're in the same industry, probably the network is the same, the connections are going to be the same, or it can lead you better to what your goal is. Because I mean, if you find a mentor in another industry, the experience might be good, but not the specific experience to that area that you want to grow in, or where you're setting your goals in. So I think it's really important that you leverage that network, because it's the only way that you're going to grow. And as well, I think that's a really good practice that we have here in CACIF, and with my fellow directors from the CACIF. That it's not industry specific, but we all come from an industry that we're working, our businesses segmented in that industry. So you can leverage that network in order to keep growing in a way that I already mentioned before, that it's the right path in the right direction. So I think that's going to be the leveraging your network connections and experience and wisdom. I think there's not a better way to express it, that you know that this person is in your same industry, so you know the pain points, you know what it's coming, you know what hasn't worked before. So it's gonna take less challenges and less mistakes if they already been through the same thing that you have been through.
Yes, I would agree 100%. Like the importance of having this industry-specific knowledge when having a mentor, of course, like you've already mentioned, like having that relevant guidance, them understanding the market dynamics of the specific entrepreneurship that you have, the network connections, like they have already crossed that path, so they know that, they know the industry best practices. And also someone mentioned this at the beginning, I really liked it, I don't remember who was, but they can help you build that credibility. Like at the beginning, you don't have that experience and so on. And so having a mentor that has already crossed that path in that specific industry might help you. Although I'm going to go the other way, and I'm going to say that, of course, it's important to have an industry specific in the industry that you're developing, but also like let's not close to only having mentors that are from that industry specific related region or area where we're working at, because like it's also up to where at what stage are we, because like if we're really advanced on our entrepreneurship and so on, like sure, you should go with a mentor that has that knowledge specifically in the industry you're developing. But for example, if you're just starting, like let's not close to only what we want. Again, just be open to different kind of perspectives. Like perhaps I want to be, again, with the example, I want to be in the food and beverage industry, but there's someone that might lead me into the technology industry, and I might not be interested in that in the beginning, but just like being able to just hear those different perspectives, I think it's also really, really helpful. And at the end of the day, like long after the road has finished, like it really is going to be helpful to have those different perspectives. So let's just not close our perspective to only have a specific mentor, but also just like my suggestion would be to just hear other perspectives as well.
Yeah, and that reminds me, Ignacio, of having like this idea that you will only need a mentor in the very first stage of your path. And nope, in this world where everything is changing so fast, and you need to have a mentor during all your business life, let's say.
Yeah, I totally agree, and it doesn't get any easier. So even if you're a mentor, you have mentees, you also have mentors. So even if several people might see me as a mentor, I also have several people whom I see as my mentor, and I'm pretty sure those that are my mentors have their own mentors. So yeah, thank you very much for that, Manusa. That's a really good insight.
Sure.
Fantastic. Thank you all so much. Now I'd like to get a little bit more personal and talk about your personal experiences. So how did you realize that you needed mentorship in your entrepreneurship journey? What was that moment or in time that you realized, like, I might need some help from someone who knows more about this industry, and I'm gonna, make that effort to find them?
I would love to start because that's for me. It's been quite a hectic journey, I would say, because when I graduated first, I think that's, well, I'm gonna go a few steps back. I grew up in a family where it was encouraged to look up to others, to the elders in the family, I guess. So I think I realized since a really young age that you're gonna learn by example. You're gonna learn by what others are doing. So after that, when I graduated from my bachelor's degree in the U.S., I came back to Guatemala, and I find myself really like wondering what I should do. And I realized that I need some guidance. I mean, you can have your parents, that there's certain type of guidance more in the values and morals way. But when you're coming back, you want to see the bigger picture. And when you see the bigger picture, you want to take everything. So I figured out in my personal experience that if I want to I want to do everything, I will not be like really focused on one thing. So I looked and saw people that I'm interested to become like them, or to be as successful as them, that that's when I realized that the mentor, it's really good for you. Because it's also, if you have someone in your family, it's going to be more subjective. I think a mentor can start as an objective point of view, and that's in my experience, that's how it worked. Because I mean, they saw the work I was putting in more than the person I was at the beginning, and this kind of contradictory what I was saying about the emotional support and the chemistry and everything. But at the beginning, I think for me was finding someone that will put me to a challenge that I will be accountable for. That is not on a subjective side, because in a subjective side of things, you'll find that you'll make excuse easier. So I think in my personal experience was that I wanted someone to be accountable for, that there's no way I could go say, no, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, I didn't do this, I don't feel like this is the way, because that trust that was already established before, not as a mentor or mentee. So just wrapping up, I think that for me was looking for people that I admire, that I want to take that trial with, and that I wanted to be accountable on my work and staying busy on that work, so that I don't only fail them as a mentor, but also as myself, because that will build trust in me.
Yes, I totally agree, Lisbeth, and I really love the thing that on being accountable and being challenged, like when you're graduating, for example, high school or middle school, or just like technical school, or if you went to college and so on. Yeah, you are like, well, what next steps do I have to take? And yeah, that happened to me also, like just wanting to be accountable and having a challenge. And of course, having someone to go along the ride with me was really helpful. just a quick overview of my experience. I remember the moment that I realized that I needed to have a mentor, as Fisa already asked, was when I was in high school. I was having several projects, and we were kind of stuck in the project we were having. And so some old alumni from our high school just went on to the school just to tell their experience and what they've been doing, so they could just give us some kind of experience on what can we expect or what can we do and so on. And I remember hearing this presentation of someone, and I remember telling another person like, hey, come along with me, let's just ask him if he can help. He had a food and beverages company, and we were finding donations for a project that we were having. And I'm like, yeah, to my friend, just like, come along with me, let's just ask him like, what can we lose just by asking. I remember he didn't want to do it, so I went alone and I just asked, and he ended up giving us a big donation, which helped a lot in developing a project in the interior of the country for low-income families. And from that moment on, like, he became my mentor, and he helped me just navigate all the things that I was thinking that I was troubled with. Like, I really didn't know what to do. And I would say that's why I'm here right now. It's because of him. But all of that, I'm telling you, because it's just like my main recommendation at the beginning was just go out of your comfort zone. Just ask. I already see in the chat that, for example, Abuakar just like shared his personal experience, his LinkedIn, and I'm pretty sure a lot of opportunities might come from that. So just go out of the comfort of your comfort zone. Like, you really don't lose anything by just asking, by just like getting out there. So that I would say, and that was exactly my personal experience.
I had a mentor since a student, and that helped me a lot when I decided to become an entrepreneur. Even though in my family, my mom was the one who was an entrepreneur, so she, like, pushed me and gave me the courage to go along. But it was a certain, like, a moment when, like, let's say I haven't heard of any kids saying, when I grow up, I want to become a realtor, right? So when that opportunity came to the table, my mentor, let's say my professional mentor, was thank God beside me, and he said, it's a great opportunity, go on, whatever. But the thing that I faced at that precise moment was to become the youngest franchisee of this brand, because I was 25 years old. So I was a woman, I was a student with no experience in real estate, and the youngest. So I had all these issues beside me, and the mentors were the one who actually believe in me, and they had to sign some form to to take care of myself and the things I was going through. So I think just as a wrap up, mentors are really a life-changing decision, because they will let you get through the learning curve smoothly, I think. And that's it.
Thank you so much, Maria. And I think actually, if we can just shift into our Q&A, as we started getting questions in the chat. Maria, the question came in, and I think it would be great if you could talk about this a little bit. As you had already started, how can mentors best support female entrepreneurs? As we've seen in many corporate spaces and in the startup ecosystem, it is male dominant. So can you kind of speak to your experiences in that?
I will say that creating the opportunities, but enhancing them, like enhancing women or empowering women to take that opportunities and become mentors, because I think male and women, we just complement each other, right? And but there's this certain thing that we have to deal, and it's a double agenda. Like for when women, it's not just the professional thing or the business thing, but also the agenda as a mom, as a housewife, as everything else. So I think the male role will be to create that support, that system where women can take the role and make the, I think, peace with all these other agendas and all the other roles they have to play.
I want to add something there for females. I think as male and females have different biological, I guess, characteristics as well. I think they also have different points of view of saying certain things in the right way, the right aspect. They have this. This is gonna sound a little bit more philosophical, but they have this aspect of being a nurture human being, nurture that tends to take care of their child more than the male. I mean, I don't want to offend here anyone, but I think it's more nurturing the females, and I think that plays a really important role as well here as a mentor mentee, because I mean, we get empowered that there's more mentors, more female mentors, because they don't only bring to the table knowledge, experience, and I believe that there's really bright. And I'm really happy as well that we have finding that we're killing this gender bias, that male dominants are the only ones that can actually be successful, and bringing that nurture aspect to the relationship is going to build a lot of trust as well between the mentee and mentors, and also inspire other women to come into this journey, because I feel that nowadays we are seeing more and more and more. But before, there was this misconception that women cannot be as successful as men, and I think bringing this nurture capabilities to the world also helps to build more trust between the community, between the people, and you can see different points of view. Like I mentioned, having this nurture characteristics as a female.
Yeah, and I would just like to add that we as mentors and everyone that's here connected, everyone who's going to see the recording of the webinar, just advocate for female entrepreneurs, right? Just like use your influence, your connections within the startup ecosystem and entrepreneurship that you work with to advocate for the recognition and support of female entrepreneurs. I would also like to mention or highlight something that Maria Jose said, which is address work-life balance. Like, I know like people like might don't want to talk about that or so on, but that exists and we have to talk about that. And just like recognize that female entrepreneurs like may face also unique challenges in balancing their personal and professional lives. So we have to also discuss strategies for managing work-life balance and well-being. And lastly, but not least, I would also mention just lead by example. Like as we're mentioning here, and as Maria Jose also mentioned, like lead by example, just like highlight those success stories from men and women as well. But also just have to mention, like as Lisbeth already mentioned, here is represented also CACIF Youth and CACIF Women. If you guys want to get to know a bit about their experience, also please don't hesitate to ask. I know from Making Sense and Youth Power, they also have a lot of initiatives that are women-driven and inclusive and so on. So please don't hesitate to just reach out. And I'm sure there are several projects that can help you guys and just like give out their experiences and what they already done.
Thank you all so much. And I see a question from Ben here in the panel, for the panel. What are your thoughts on paid versus free mentorship, and are there benefits or advantages for one over the other?
I think that's a really, really good question, because myself, I have found myself in that exact same spot. When it comes to being like the mentor being accountable because they're getting paid, I mean, that's a really good question. And I think it's gonna depend on what your objective is and what you're looking for. I mean, for paying for a mentorship, you're paying for that expertise, you're paying for that time and commitment, you're paying for a more structured program that is already built for you. So I think you're gonna have at least what I've seen on the mentor world, that when you pay someone, you're getting more quicker the result that you want, because there's accountability on both sides as well. I mean, in a sense that you want to get your money's worth. So I think if you want to go specific into something, then you want to learn specifics to something, some challenges. Paying a mentorship, it's good, because I mean they already know that what are you looking for, and they already have structured programs that are gonna get you quicker. I believe not always gonna be the best way, but it might get you quicker. But also on the downside of that aspect is that it might not feel genuine, the relationship, because it might feel more like a service. So for me, I think the availability as well. Usually paid mentors have really tight schedules because they have a lot of mentees on their schedule. It's less personal, I think, in a certain way, until you build that trust, but it depends how much money you want to spend. And for free, you have more availability, more diversity and perspectives, and it's more flexible. I think that's the two things that I will consider. One is more structured, the other is more flexible. And I believe it also depends how long you want to build that relationship. I'm not saying that some paid mentorships can evolve into a long term, but it's going to cost you a lot more money. But on the other side, the free ones, or the genuine ones, I will put it that way. It's easier to build a long term, and it's going to be more on the long term than on the short term specific.
Yeah, I totally agree with this, Pedro. Like, there is not a simple answer or a right answer to that question. When it's right, right? I think Luis Pedro already mentioned like all the pros and cons. But yeah, I would think that when it's right, and it doesn't matter whether it's paid or free. Like, again, I'm sorry that I'm repeating so much, but if it's the right mentor for you, it's going to be the right mentor, whether it's paid or not paid, I would think.
You summed it up really good. If it's the right way, paid or not paid, that's totally true.
What's for you?
And I see another question here in the chat, maybe one of our last few questions. What's something you wish you knew before to make the most of your relationship with your mentor?
I would say there are no wrong questions or dumb questions. I don't know what's the saying in English. I only know in Spanish, but there are no dumb questions. Like, at the beginning, I was really timid. I was not like really outgoing and so on. And so I really had a lot of questions, but I felt like they were dumb. Like, I should know the answer to them already. So I didn't do it. And so if I could just go back a couple of years ago, I would say to myself, just ask whatever question you have in your mind. Like, there are really no dumb questions. And that's the relationship that we are trying to form between the mentor and the mentee, is being able to answer some questions. So I would say that there's no dumb questions. Just ask whatever you have in your mind.
And that, adding to that, because I think that's really good, Ignacio, be yourself. I think that's the most important thing. Be yourself, be curious, ask everything like Ignacio said, but the most important is be yourself. Because sometimes when we see a figure that might be, we might seem to as a mentor, we might tend to not want to make mistakes because we don't want to see them as foolish. We don't want to be seen as this unexperienced, but that's why you're there, because you want to learn from them. So be yourself, express yourself as you are, express your concerns, express your fears. It's not more like it's also tends to become like a psychology, like a therapist in a certain way, that things that not only professional but also personal might get in the way, that will help you build that trust. So for me, at least, it took me a few years to realize that the quicker way to get where I want to be, it's being myself. Because if you hold that into yourself and you limit yourself to be curious, be trying to be this perfect mentee, you're just gonna be what's the right word for this? Take more time to get to that goal, because along the way you're gonna realize that being yourself is the easiest way, and this will apply to everything we have talked about. Being yourself and be curious about what you want to learn and what you want to be, it's gonna be the best thing that will help to build a better relationship and build a better mentorship program between you and your mentor or mentee.
Yeah, that reminds me to be true to yourself, because being yourself will lead you to that, and also lead you to discuss, and discussion is positive, right? Because you will not agree in everything, and discussion will let you find much more options than the obvious that you have in front or in the table. So being open to discussion will help to keep everything on track easier also.
Great, thank you all so much. Are there any last questions before we wrap up for everybody here on the call? Please drop any last minute questions. Okay, if not, then we'll begin our closing. I just want to thank Ignacio, Luis, and Maria again for such a great discussion. I learned a lot myself, and I'm not even in the entrepreneurial field, but I feel like your advice was applicable to all aspects of life. But thank you so much for collaborating with us on this event. If you all enjoyed this as much as I did, the great news is that we always have more events going on. The YouthLead Mentorship Initiative will continue to host learning events such as this one each quarter, where we explore different aspects of mentorship and learn and grow together. I encourage you all to check back regularly to learn more about upcoming events, featured resources, and more about mentorship. We need you to help us grow the mentorship initiative. We invite all of our YouthLead members to share feedback with us about the page, recommended resources, or information about any mentorship programs and networks that you have participated in and would like to share with the YouthLead community. Also, invite your friends and colleagues to explore this page. At the bottom of the slide, there is an email address which will connect you with the YouthLead team so that we can respond to any questions or comments. Once again, thank you to our panel for such a great discussion, and thank you all for joining us today. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.